this is kind of hard for me to talk about, and I think that a lot of people won't agree with it, or it might be pretty controversial. It's also kind of a long story, but okay. Around 3 months ago, I was in a relationship with someone, and that person broke up with me. It didn't seem like that big of a deal. I mean, it was a big deal at the time because it was the first relationship that I had ever been in, and yeah. Anyways, to me it's kind of embarrassing that that was the start of like a chain of events to get me to where I'm at now. But what sort of started to happen was I took a break from some things like schoolwork and some of the normal things that I had been doing in my life, and sort of just like looked at it. And one of the things that went through my mind was like, if someone potentially doesn't want to be a part of my life anymore, at least at that level, like, then is my life something that I liked, or like that I want to be a part of? And I kind of decided that it wasn't. Not like not that I wanted to die, but that what I was doing was, this is like, it goes back even further to when we finished the Appalachian Trail. I felt like immense pressure to catch up. I didn't really know what that meant. I felt like I was like dumber than every kid who had gone to public school. There was so much that I felt like I didn't know and that other kids knew more than me. And I felt like that just wasn't okay. So I started teaching myself things. I started waking up at 4 a.m. and reading books, and most of that just like went through my head. Like, I think I retained some of it, but I don't think it was a waste of time. I became super self-disciplined. I became super negative too, which had an impact on the people around me, but it also just made me, I was like, okay, this is just me now. Like, I have to be perfect, you know? That's just the way that I saw it. I have to try my best with everything. So I decided to go to school, and it was a big thing for me. It was like, I don't know if I can do it. And then I found out that it wasn't that big of a thing. And the way that I was living my life it made it so that I couldn't have fun unless I was forced to, and even then, it wasn't really fun for me. I was constantly saying and thinking that I can do better than this, I can do more. Every single day, I had like a calendar, which there's nothing wrong with calendars, but I took it to like the extent that like every night I would like write down a to-do list, and then I would check it off, and then these lists started getting longer and longer. I couldn't do everything. I found that out pretty quickly, and I started feeling like it was just never enough. Fast forward, I was living like this for a long time. It was pretty miserable now that I look back at it, but I still don't regret it. It got me to where I'm at. It was like I was creating my own version of hell. And like, there was nothing, I don't think there was anything wrong with it. Like, other people saw me and were like, oh, good job, Eden, like you're going to school, you're doing all these things, and you're working hard, and like But people who were closer to me, like Dove and some of my friends, they were more impacted because I would say that I couldn't spend time with them because I had to get work done. When I did spend time with them, I was still constantly talking about the things that I had to do. And I was so focused on all of these things that are good, but I don't think they're more important than like my happiness or the happiness of people around me. So my relationship was different and it was broken, I guess. So when I thought about my life as something that I didn't like the way that I was living, I just took a couple weeks off from a lot of stuff. And I started rebuilding my life. And it mostly, I started just doing things that I enjoyed and not the things that I felt like I had to do, but like it was a lot of baking, some drawing, painting, creating, just like a lot of everything. I started saying yes to more things that I had wanted to do, but I felt like the other stuff was so important that it was pretty messed up. And then I really started enjoying life. Every day felt longer. It felt like I had way more time. At the back of my mind, I still was like, well, I'm not doing schoolwork. I kind of was doing like I was kind of still checking off those boxes, but not really. It was just, I took a big step back from my life and looked at it and kind of just, I just kind of lived for maybe a month or a month and a half. Some of the things that I learned during those weeks, it was really, really emotionally hard and mentally. I was like hurt from the relationship being broken. I felt like alone, but also I almost felt like I had been abandoned or something. And there was just this time where I learned that like I have to be my own biggest supporter and that I have to be responsible for my own happiness. And like I learned so much more than that, but it was those like two ideas those were things that I had like known about and sort of believed, but I hadn't really acted on. There was also like it had gotten to the point before where I had like kept on trying diets. I was like working out by myself. There was like just a lot of like, besides the schoolwork, I also was like, I didn't like the way that I looked. I didn't like my body. I didn't like myself. But it seemed like I couldn't change. Like I just like accepted that as like who I was, and I wasn't happy. So then when I started looking at that differently, it was kind of like looking back now, I just feel so much better. Even like physically, like I feel like I look better, and I wasn't worried about diets or food or weight or my schedule or anything. I kind of just like cut that off. And it like allowed me to focus on things that were a lot more important, which was like myself, my relationships, my family, and then sort of just becoming the person who I was, but also like who I needed and wanted to be. Anyways, I had been living that way for a while, just sort of focusing. I started adding like a couple more structural things back into my life, like schoolwork, but I did it so differently. I wasn't like, oh, I have to do this and like I can't do anything else until this is done. I have to get ahead and I have to do the best I can possibly do with what I have. Instead, it was more like, I'm gonna wake up today, I'm gonna try to get stuff done, and I'm also just gonna try to live and enjoy myself, and if that stuff doesn't get done, it's okay. And that was a big change from the way I'd been thinking before. But also during this time, it was, like I said before, it was just emotionally and mentally very, very hard. I was dealing with a lot of stuff that I didn't even know was like inside of me. And I think one of the things that like hurt me the most was the fact that the relationship that I had been in being broken had affected me this much. So a couple weeks ago, I kind of had the idea of like getting away, and people kind of like mentioned it to me too. They're like, maybe you need like a distraction, because even though I was physically getting better, and like in some ways I was mentally getting better too, it was every day was like, I just was like thinking through a lot of shit, I guess you could say, my own and just everything, my life, I guess. So I wanted to get away. I wanted to go on a trip, which, I mean, I know if you get away, that doesn't mean that your problems are gone and it's only temporarily. So I didn't want it to be like that. I wanted more just like a sort of like a just like a little break and a way to sort of step back from the problems that I was always like focusing on and thinking about. But also I wanted to do something physically hard, because like my mind had been working hard for so long, and there still is like a lot of anger and pain from the relationship that ended, I guess. Mostly just like with myself. So I was thinking about ideas. I'm actually not really sure where this idea came from. I remember I was thinking about going on a trip, and I was like, there's this video by Casey Neistat, a YouTuber, that's called Make It Count. And that was kind of, I had always like really liked that video, but I watched it and something that just sort of like, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go on a trip. And this idea started like forming of like a bike trip, which my dad has biked a lot, and my mom and dad went on a bike trip together. That didn't end well. I guess it depends on how you look at it. It didn't end how they thought it would end, I guess. But so I decided that that's what I was going to do. I was going to go on a bike trip to my mom's friend's house. It was super really nice, really cool lady who, she came and visited us, and we stayed at her house while we were doing the AT, and that's how we met her. I had no idea what I was like planning for. I still don't know. But I asked with help from my dad. Fresh Ground, who helped us out in the AT, has biked a lot, and so I asked like him for advice. And then over the course of like a week, I decided where I was gonna go, what I was gonna do, and I decided to do it alone. I'm leaving today, at least that's the plan. And the majority of people that I've talked to I haven't talked to a lot of people about this because I know that it's not, I don't really think it's a smart idea. I don't really know if it's wise either, but I've kind of come to the point where I'm doing this for myself, and I know there could be consequences I know I'll definitely regret it at some point, but I made the decision that it was worth it. For me, it was worth it. Over the course of a week, I ordered stuff online. I took apart a bike and put it back together, and, well, not completely, but mostly, and packed. And I know how to pack for things like this because we did the AT, so that's kind of helpful. But it's also something that I've never done before. And I think one of the hardest things for me is going to be the navigation and also the fact that I'm alone. But I think it will take me between 10 and 12 days, which is not that long. So hopefully that will help. To me, it's between 500 and 600 miles. I don't know if I'm going to make it. I hope that I do, but I also just, in the end, I just want to learn from it, which I already have like learned a ton from even just preparing for it and making this decision to do it. And I want an adventure. I want something that I've never done before. Initially, I wasn't thinking that I would go alone, but in the end, that was like, first of all, there's people who could come with me, but I just decided that I can do it alone, and I'm gonna try to do it alone at least. Success to me does not mean that I make it to my destination. To me, it's more, like I said, that I learned something. I'm hoping that I'll get experiences that I've never had, and that I'll look back on positively, hopefully, and that I overcome some of my own things, whatever goes on in here, and that I kind of just discover things about myself and things about the world. So we'll see how far I get. I have most of my stuff packed, but I'm planning on leaving today sometime around lunchtime. And there's also like it's sad to me because I've never done something like this, and I know I'm gonna be alone. But I'm also excited. You know, it's like I'm going on a trip by myself. It's probably a slightly stupid idea, but I feel like every once in a while, like, it's okay to do something stupid. So that's it. I'm really hoping that something really bad doesn't happen to me. I know it's possible. I think the odds of something bad happening to me versus something not are like slightly in my favor, but I still know that something could happen to me. Worst case scenario, I feel like I could die and then my parents could go to jail. That would be really, really sad, but we'll just see what happens. I'm gonna prepare for it as best I can, and I'm going to just expect an adventure, and we'll see.